Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 253. Hope you're amazing as always. And listen, if I've still got this dodgy sound going on, I apologize. I fly out tomorrow. I'm going to get my microphone. I'm still recording all of these from the iPhone. I've got a cool external mic connected to it. But just for you people out there thinking about starting podcasts, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've had so many different type of microphones. And the truth is, look, everything can be done video-wise these days off your phone. Near enough, right? And there's so many cool new microphones out there that can connect to everything. It's like you don't really need this massive technology. You really don't. It was funny. I remember recording with a friend of mine, John Heffron, who's a stand-up comic, won NBC's Last Comic Standing, and it was going back 8 years ago now, maybe 9 years ago. And we were recording something called Perfect State University. And it's a shame. I'm going to pull this out and maybe I'll release it again with John. It's actually really cool. But we were in the recording studio, and it took so much time. It took so much money. And it's professional sound. It sounded amazing. Of course it did. But the truth is, you know what I mean? Thousands of dollars later and so much time. And it was actually where we were recording. Next door was the original Brady Bunch's house. Yeah, do you know the Brady Bunch? Probably don't if you're young, right? But I just about remember the Brady Bunch. But yeah, we were recording next door. And anyway, that's a random rant for the first 2 minutes of the podcast. Random, but it just shows how things have changed so much. I mean, 10 years ago, this was a radio show. This was literally, you would have a production house, you would go somewhere, people would market for you, people would set up the times for you, you would pay, you maybe even were employed by the radio station. Do you remember radio? It still exists apparently. And you know what? It's crazy that it was such a controlled platform. You know, radio and TV is such a controlled thing that they would make certain people stars and other people won't, right? And isn't it nice that we can now build our own brand, our own media empire? Is it easy? Of course it's not easy. Is anything in life worth having easy? Well, it's even with partners, right? If someone wants it's too easy to get, we don't want it. It's the same with everything. It's about building muscle. We're building muscle in the brain, and even building muscle on your body. Guess what? It requires so much time, effort, and energy, so much dedication, so much work. But it's the result we want, you know? And it's the same with business and life. We get so caught up in thinking things are going to be fast, smooth, and easy, but it doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. Relationships doesn't work like that. Earning money doesn't work like that. I said earn twice, but money doesn't work like that. And growing a business doesn't work like that. People make things seem very, very simple so they can sell you a product, right? But the truth is, behind the scenes, the surface level, it is simple, but behind the scenes, it's the tiny little details that make the difference. It's like, I've done martial arts since I was 9 years old, you know, and I got my black belt. I was black belt second dan on the England under-21s England squad with karate. I've fought an amateur MMA fight. One of the top people in Britain in karate. And the truth is, behind it all, you can know all your basics, but the basics have details. And then they get more technical and advanced and foot position, hand position, eye position, head position, right? But from the outside, that person's just doing that move. But like anything, it's the details that make the difference. And to learn any detail in detail, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. So for you out there listening to this right now, I don't know where you are in your business. I don't know whether you're in millions plus a year. I don't know whether you're on low 5 figures and you just want to get something. I don't know where you're at, right? And the truth is, to hit that next level, to hit that next stage, it requires much more detail than you're used to where you're at right now. Think about this, right? So say you got your $1 million coming in a year right now. Okay, it looks easy from the outside, doesn't it? Yeah, let's build a funnel, put Facebook ads, right? We'll click right through and then we'll get them to a webinar, and the webinar will sell them 1 million copies, right? It sounds easy, doesn't it? And it is on a macro level, right? But on a micro level, then there's so many nuances. And so why am I saying this? I'm saying it to you is that just keep going. Do you know what I mean? Just keep getting better at your skill. Just keep getting better at who you are. Just keep getting better at up-leveling your network, up-leveling your details of what you need to know. Because if you're in that $1 million a year, guess what it comes with? Well, it comes with a lot more, details than what would be shown from the outside. So that includes not just accounts, but that includes the merchant accounts, then following the tracking, and then you're dealing with a lot of money then, which means you're dealing with a lot of people, which means you're dealing with a lot of egos, which means you're dealing with a lot of happy people, unhappy people, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with teams, you're dealing with marketing, you're dealing with sales. It goes on and on and on. And all of these areas require you or somebody to be an expert. So if you're trying to do everything right now and you're struggling, then give yourself a break. It's okay. Just do your best, right? Put yourself around the right people. Aspire to be somebody who is way more than where you are now, that ultimate version of you, and just keep driving forwards. Because the absolute truth is, there's never been a better time ever in the history of mankind that you can build your own business, right? But it doesn't matter what skill you've got, right? Up-level that skill, but you have all of the internet around you, right? You have all of the knowledge that wasn't available. I spoke about 8 years ago needing a sound recording studio, and now I'm sitting here with a little microphone recording off my iPhone. That's amazing. And so for you, always look at what's next. I mean, if something's not working for you, okay, well, let's step out of that view, look in on it from a 30,000 foot view, and what are the missing pieces, right? Be honest, unemotional, and be honest with yourself. And when you can start to do that, that's how you build a business. When you start to see other people building it, that's how you learn from them about the details. And I realize I'm on a complete rant for the past 8 minutes, but it was important for me to say to you, just keep getting better, right? And that's what the podcast is for. That's what I'm here for. Because the truth is, what I was saying before, is you can have the best, most advanced skill set in the world. You really can. You could be the best at what you do in the world. And if you said you are, I kind of believe you. You know what I mean? The second step to that is you can have that skill set, but then it's about the mindset, right? And if your brain isn't dialed in to what your skill levels are, then you're not going to get the results. Let me explain. We talk about that $1 million earner, right? The 7-figure. Now, if you're earning that a year, guess what? You have become an expert, right, in each one of those areas, or you've become an expert at managing people who are experts in that arena. So what's my point to all of this? Why am I telling you all this? Because I want you to understand, if you're struggling right now, or you've performed as a world-class performer before, you've been a high performer and you've just dropped off and you need to bounce back, you've got to understand this. You can have the best skill set in the world, but it doesn't mean you're going to get results unless you have built your mindset at the same high performance level. You can have the best mindset in the world. Everything's beautiful. You're on fire all the time. But if you've got no skill set, then guess what? You're not going to get results. It's just a fact. And so what I want to show you in my life and business and podcast and Instagram and Facebook Incubator group, wherever you want to hang out with me, is that there's levels. There's levels of the game. There's level of the game you're on. There's levels, right? So that $1 million goal, the person hits that $1 million. Why? Because they got the skill sets to get there. They've also built that mindset. Because if you're worrying about money, then you're not going to get 7 figures. It's just not going to happen. You have to get over your money issues to become a multimillionaire. Does that make sense? Or whatever goal it is for you, you have to get over that issue. So skill set and mindset equals results. And what I want to share with you, I'm going to jump into the episode in a minute, but click over to those show notes, because if you are a high performer and you view the high performer whose business is expanding right now and blowing up, and you want to make sure that your mind is so sharp as your business grows, or you are a badass high performer and for some reason, whatever it is, your results have dipped. And if they've dipped, guess what? You're going to want to bounce back and then take things to a whole new level. And that is what I want to help you with. So head over to those show notes and guess what's in there? Loads of links. First step, well, if you are really ready, then you are going to be one of the exclusive few who gets to actually meet me or one of my coaches, and we work out what the right fit for you is. Whether it's teams, whether it's individual coaching, whether it's an academy, whether it's a mentoring group, or whether it's just an audio that you can listen to. You're going to find out. The other side of it is, if you've dipped in results and you know you are a badass, right? Then guess what? We need to have a chat. So hit that first link, apply, and let's see if we can find the right fit for you. The other thing is, make sure if you are not in the Facebook Incubator group, man, look for that link and get in it today. I'm about to start over the next few weeks a constant, I'm going to be doing live trainings basically every week. And it's live videos with techniques and tools. We're going to cover everything, every area. We're going to bring up hot seats. I'm going to make it into a real community that I haven't done in quite a while, because there's so many different moving parts. But the Incubator group is definitely something I'm going to be pumping a lot of time and effort and energy into. And I want you to be there too and get the benefits of that. So hit that up. What else we got for you? There's so many things in there. So hit those show notes up. So crew, what the heck is this episode all about after you've listened to me rant on, right? Hey, look, I'm only trying to help you. So today's episode is something I've taught for, way over a decade. But there's all these beautiful neuroscience studies come out, and now we've got connection with AI, which speeds everything up 10x. So basically, we're going to look at why music makes us feel, plain and simple. Why does it make us feel? And it's according to AI, who's calculated a ton of research on this. And I'm going to get into why emotions are so important in high performance. It's a thing that people overlook or they dismiss. And I go the opposite way, which is tends to why I create results that people can't. But I go the opposite way. And emotion control is so important. But then we have to understand how to use that kinesthetic, how to use that emotion, and how that emotion then connects to our nervous system, our brain chemicals, and to how we think, feel, and act in the moment. And that's what I'm going to get into today. So if that sounds good, then keep listening and we'll jump into this right now. So crew, here we go. Here we are. This is an article that I found. It's very recent. It's by October the 31st. And it's Neuroscience News. I love this site. They go into neuroscience, neurology, AI, robotics, psychology. It's pretty cool. this article, I'm going to condense it and I'm going to give my opinions as always about it and make it relevant to you. And something you can actually apply in your life today. That's the whole point, right? Because there's so many of these articles and oh man, YouTube videos and Instagram, they just talk noise and they've read someone's quote or they've read something and they repeat it, but there's no wisdom behind it or there's no actual application behind it. And it drives me crazy, to be honest. So let's jump into this, right? Let's jump into this. I'm going to give you a quick summary and then we'll break this article down. And then I really want to show you the power of music. And it sounds a silly concept. It really, really does. I mean, music, what the heck? It's just music, right? But when we start to understand that since the dawn of man, and we're going back, tens of thousands of years now, it's a case of, the primal side of us has always been able to create rhythms and beats. Do you understand that? So when we go back to before we have verbal communication and we weren't able to express the details of hunting and fire building skills or even just normal communication about our emotions, what happened was, we didn't have prefrontal cortex or cortex development, right? So the way that the tribes bonded was through rhythm and beats. Because anyone can and what do you want to do? Right? Probably tell me to shut up a bit. But that if I played that, I bet there's a beat starts going in your head, right? And you start to join in. So it's like a genetic thing that's really been epigenetically, if we want to talk about that, gene expression, but it's really come through generations and generations of human beings all over the world. And if we didn't know a language, we could literally still go and play music and everybody would be on the same page. And if no one was allowed to speak, but everyone was allowed to dance, you know what I mean? It's like everybody would be on the same page. Maybe that's the cure and the fix to the world, man. We just need an awesome beat and get everyone to dance to it. And do you know what? There's something to be said for that. There really is. But music, I use it in performance enhancing. I use it connected to certain systems that I teach for real high performance, about stepping into state, about pattern interrupts, about activating certain mirror neurons and certain things like that. So music is a massive part of my coaching and my mentoring, and it's also a massive part of my own life to again, something I explained before, later, but it's about being able to control emotion. Remember I said about this performance at the start of the podcast? Remember that? You got it. So let me give you this summary. Artificial intelligence helps shed light on how people's brains, bodies, and emotions react to listening to music. Music influences parts of the auditory cortex, including the Heschel's gyrus and superior temporal gyrus, specifically responding to pulse clarity. Changes in dynamics, rhythm, timbre, and the introduction of new instruments cause an uptick in the response. The study also identifies the best songs types for the perfect workout, sleep, and study. How cool is that? And that's why I wanted to show this, because the brain isn't just about, the music isn't just about relaxing or getting amped up. No, it has many different effects on how the nervous system responds. So we're going to get into all that. So your heart beats faster. So the source of this article is actually from the University of California. So this is what they say. I'm going to read through the article. I'm going to do my thing. So your heart beats faster. Palms sweat and the part of your brain called the Heschel's gyrus lights up like a Christmas tree. Chances are you've never thought about what happens to your brain or body when listening to music in such a detailed way. But it's a question that's puzzled scientists for decades. So why does something so abstract as music provokes such a consistent response? In a new study, a team at USC, researchers with the help of artificial intelligence investigated how music affects listeners' brains, bodies, and emotions. Now, the research team looked at the heart rate, the galvanic skin response or sweat gland activity, brain activity, and subjective feelings of happiness and sadness in a group of volunteers as they listened to 3 pieces of unfamiliar music. Now that's the key word, right? The unfamiliar music, because again, the unfamiliar, lights up different parts of our brain and also different chemicals, right? So that bit is very important. Novelty creates dopamine spikes, basically. So of the 74 musical features examined, the researchers found dynamics, register, rhythm, and harmony were particularly helpful in predicting listeners' response. So dynamics, register, rhythm, and harmony. So taking a holistic view of music perception. Taking a holistic view at music perception, using all different kinds of musical predicators, gives us an unprecedented insight in how our bodies and brains respond to music, said the studies of leading author Tom Greer, a computer science PhD student and a member of the USC Signal Analysis and Interpretation Laboratory called SAIL, S-A-I-L. So here's the big thing, right? The contrast is crucial. And like we said before, that music powerfully influences parts of the brain, right? The auditory complex in the gyrus. Well, specifically, the brain responded to pulse clarity. Or what the hell does that mean? Or the strength of the beat, right? Pulse clarity. We're using some technical music terms here. So pulse clarity. Put simply, the gyri will be looking lively when listening to Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. They also found that, I don't know why they chose that song, but anyway, they also found that change in dynamics, rhythm, and timbre, or the introduction of new instruments, bring the uptick in the response. In other words, the contrast is crucial, for instance, to activate when there is a change in dynamics or loudness. If a song is loud throughout, there is not a lot of dynamic variability, and the experience will not be as powerful as if the composer uses to change the loudness, said Greer. Himself a composer, also plays the sax and the keyboard. So it's a songwriter's job to take you on a roller coaster of emotions in under 3 minutes. The dynamic variability is one of the ways to achieve this. That's pretty cool, right? So think about this, right? We have classical music's a brilliant example, isn't it? You know, where it goes really quiet and then goes bam, 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 and then back down again. But you've got like, dance music, right? It's a consistent thing. So I'm going to continue with the article, but so if you're listening to a whole album of black metal, which is consistently loud, you're probably not going to see a response. But if you're listening to Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, which goes into a quiet burst and a loud chorus and back again, it's a different story. The team also discovered the galvanic skin response, basically a measure of sweat, increased in the entrance of a new instrument, the start of a new musical rendition. So in addition, the most stimulating moments in music were preceded by an increase in complexity level of the song. In essence, the more instruments are in the song, the more people responded. Think of the section of Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. I don't care what this guy's doing, right? He might be brilliant, but whoever's wrote this article, okay, needs to update their songs, right? But again, Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, as the song builds, again, it's adding more instruments. So that means the brain's going to respond, right? So, and the saddest note of all, the award goes to the raised 7 note of the minor scale. The study found that the note F in a song in G minor key of G minor positively correlated to high sadness ratings. How interesting, right? So think about that. That's how deeply ingrained songs are to our genetic code. Is that it's like if you're playing an F in G minor key, it makes you sad. Think about that, right? Interesting. I wonder if that connects to, I'm sure the article doesn't go into it, but I wonder if that connects to a safety mechanism, or it sounds like a wild animal's noise, a screeching noise, or a defense mechanism or something, right? Interesting. Now, at this stage, you might be thinking, Andy, what are you even talking about? Telling me about G minor scales? What are you talking about? How's this making me money? I get it, right? But everything's about high performance. So to understand how you work, you need to understand how the brain works. You need to understand how everything connects together, because that's how we create a foundation that starts to automate your behavior. It starts to automate your focus, your beliefs, your emotional, right? Your emotional reaction, or your emotion in the moment. That's how we're able to engage self-talk right there when the pressure's on, to be able to direct our focus, or use a different language, or make a decision, right? Maybe it's even about mirroring or modeling that person's tonality. So you build a deeper level of rapport. Or maybe it's about being able to be in the correct emotion and thought, so you're able to negotiate and take that person's thinking up to the highest level perspective where you both agree, right? But when you're stressed out and the pressure's on, you can't do those things. Does that make sense? So what the music is about to me, and we're going to go into some more studies, but it's a case of, it's about showing you how deeply emotion and noise direct affects you, and how we can start to begin to take control over that to make it ourselves, perform a certain way, right? So what we don't want to do is be going around playing songs, what was it? The seventh note of the minor scale, F sharp in a song in G minor key of G minor. Yeah, unless you're a musician. I don't understand that. But hey, I'm learning the conga drums, the salsa. I'm learning salsa drums in Panama. Why? Well, neuroplasticity. 2, again, it makes me feel good, right? And it's also a type of meditation. So again, it makes me feel good. Understand that? Emotional control. So let me get back to this article. So the article actually contradicted itself with the numbers, but that's okay. So instead of taking 60 volunteers, it said, instead of taking 40 volunteers listen to happy or sad music, what they actually did was take 60 people. That's what the second paragraph says. 60 people listened to the music on headphones while their heart activity and skin was measured. The same group also rated the intensity of the emotion, happy or sad. So that's pretty cool. And they did that while they're listening to the music. Then the computer scientists crunched the data using AI. And this is why everything's changed now, the speed that things can happen, right? So they crunched the data using the AI algorithm to determine which auditory features people responded to consistently. So in the past, neuroscience is trying to better understand the impact of music on the body and the brain and emotions, have analyzed an MRI brain scans over very short segments of time. For instance, looking at the brain reacting for 2 seconds of music. So by contrast, in this study, using algorithms to analyze data gathered in the lab, the scientists were able to look at how people felt while listening to music over longer periods of time, which not only from brain scans, but also combining data from other modes. So novel multimodal computing approaches help people not just illuminate human affective experiences, but to music at the brain and body level, but connecting them to how actually individuals feel and articulate the experience. And this is very important to understand, right? Because then it gives them a baseline reading of, look at this way, and this is where my brain thinks about it. If they had a baseline reading of what actual frequencies or music notes created high performance or absolute happiness and ecstaticness, right? And they know that that was connected to literally changing how our brain is wired and the chemicals. Then how amazing would it be if we had that data, right? And we were able to plug people in. Depression would be gone. We'd be able to elevate ourselves. And that's one of the things that I want to do with the podcast and the whole of the brand. I talk about high performers and high performers. And it's all true. That's how I love to work with and help. But the truth is, there's a journey to become a high performer, right? And it's growth. And even when you're a high performer, it's about the ability to constantly maintain that. So to me, when I read these articles, it's like, okay, it's a lot of noise and nonsense, but it's all relevant. And if we get through to the details and we get clear on what the point is, why I'm telling you this, then what it's about helping people and making money, right? So emotional control is what's going to help you do that. So let me keep going with the article anyway. In addition to helping research identify songs for the perfect workout, study, or sleep playlist, the research has therapeutic applications. Music has been shown to calm anxiety, ease pain, and help people through disabilities or dementia. And I love that dementia one, right? Because if we talked about trigger points or anchoring or stimulus response, what the hell does that mean? It means a memory from the past. Might be in music. You might have been in a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning. Lots of us have had those memories, right? But at that you hear that tune, it takes you right back to that moment. So dementia means that we're having neurodegeneration of the brain, which means what? The brain's not working properly, man. So if we can light up those old memories that we haven't thought about in a while because they're deeply pushed into our nervous system, then imagine how amazing that would be, Hey, I'm dealing with a family member with things wrong with him with Parkinson's. So things like tools like this become very important to me to be able to, help ease that pain. But anyway, that's a side note. So from a therapy perspective, the article talks about, from a therapy perspective, music is a really good tool for induce emotion and engage a better mood. Well, I just told you that, didn't I? But using the research, we can design a musical stimuli for therapy in depression and other mood disorders. It also helps us understand how emotions are processed in the brain. And I love what they've said then, because that is exactly what the stimuli, which is a stimulus response, which is anchoring, right? Or Pavlov's dog experiment. It's basically saying that you can connect things to things in a negative and positive way. So you could see a picture on a wall and it's the same picture, but you could hate that person because it reminds you of somebody. Someone else could love that person because it reminds them of somebody, right? So that's a trigger response. That's a stimuli. So if we're able to work this out, man, it's like pressing keys on a keyboard, they literally will communicate different emotions in people. That, for me, is massive. So the final piece of this is, according to the researchers, future studies could look at how different types of music can positively manipulate our emotional responses and whether the intent of the composer matches the listener's perception of a piece of music. Well, that's a whole different thing. But I want to show you now, right, how to apply that, right? Because that's what we want, isn't it? We want to be able to apply these things for high performance. So first of all, there's two different ways I use this, okay? So first of all, did that article make sense? Remember, everybody, I have dyslexia. So I do my best with this, and I do my best to pronunciate things correctly, and you probably heard me mispronunciate loads of words, and if you're used to me by now, hey, it is what it is. Richard Branson, Einstein, and many others have dyslexia, or had dyslexia, so hey, it's got to be a good thing. So my point is in how I use music is different stages of the day and different ways, right? And different ways to use it. So if we're using it to pump up for the day, okay, we're using it to switch on, then that's very important. But there is definitely, do we want gabbers stomping techno in the morning? Or do we want something just to elevate our mood? Or do we want that music to make us happy? Or do we want it to fill us full of energy? Or do we want us to feel emotional so we can express something into a journal, right? All of those very different ways we use and I use music, right? And when we start to look at music like that, it's beautiful, because if you're stressed out, well, we can put something calmer. If we're too calm and we need to amp up, we can do that, right? It also moves us into how I use many different tools, but one of them is music or affirmations or brainwave frequencies binaural beats while I'm actually working. And so if I'm sending emails and stuff, I've actually got tracks always playing in the background. And one of the things, I can listen to mantra, I listen to lots of different crazy stuff. But for you, when you're listening, what we want is not an amped up music, right? And we don't want high variability, because we've just shown it creates different emotions in the brain and amps us up. And when we're trying to be in a flow state is a very specific thought pattern and brainwave frequency. So by constantly changing the beats and stuff, what that does for us is, it's going to take you out of flow. It's going to bring you consciously into thinking about that music and having an opinion about it, not being what I want it for, which is a consistent beat. It doesn't necessarily have lyrics. If the lyrics it does have, then they need to be monotonous, or they need to be in a different language so you can understand it. Because what we don't want is a conscious response. Does that make sense? Because if I was tapping again, right? If I was tapping, that might sound annoying right now, but if I did that for 5 minutes, you probably wouldn't hear it. Do you understand? It blends in. That's when we start to drop into trance. And what I mean by trance is different brainwave frequencies. So when you're actually working and you're typing emails or whatever it is, I want you to understand something. I want you to understand that version of you that's typing right there is a very specific version. Specific beliefs, specific focus, expectations, certain self-talk and certain chemicals in the brain. So what we want to do is start to create an environment around us that triggers this positive response, doesn't trigger a negative response, right? So what they spoke about is stimuli, but let's talk about just like the music for trance, because that's what it is. So understand how states work and peak states and alter egos and all of these things. So look at it like this. How can a baseball player hit a 100-mile-an-hour ball? Well, they can't consciously. They are in a type of hypnosis, a type of brainwave frequency in flow, right? That's where the time can slow down, you know? And if you've ever done martial arts and ever fought, man, it's like when you're in flow, it's crazy. It's like literally you can see people in slow motion. Well, it's the same with business. It's exactly the same. For you to sit down at your computer and you open your laptop and expect just to write the best piece of music or marketing or article or whatever it is, and you just instantly do it. It doesn't work like that, man. I have different step processes to be able to go into flow. But using music as just an underlying beat in the background, what it does is it creates a rhythm that literally takes you into hypnosis. It literally takes you into trance, drops your brainwave frequency. So you'll start to go into flow. And if we already know what we're trying to accomplish by the end of it, and you just sit there for a minute And just visualize the completion of that task. What you're doing with your brain is you're dropping it into trance, you're programming that image, and you're adjusting our filter system to focus on what that end result is. So what that means is you'll flow to the end result instead of just flowing or coming in and out of flow or coming in and out of being conscious about what's going on. So does that make sense? I hope so. I could go on and on about this for a long, long time. But I just wanted to share that article with you today because I feel there's a lot of good details in there if you understand it, right? And I just wanted to give those little tips at the end because it's something I use every day for myself. So I want you now to think about what is being triggered in your world. You know, I've done articles about noise before. Is noise triggering you? Is there a certain type of music that reminds you of somebody that you don't want it to? Is there a certain piece of music like the Rocky, like Eye of the Tiger? Instantly, I only did that. I'm a bad singer, but I only did those. That little beat, and guess what? Your mind went where? Yes, instantly to Rocky. And that doesn't just remind you of Rocky running up those steps now. What else does it remind you of? Yeah, the grit, the hustle, the determination, the unbreakable version. And if you could be that way now and think about your business this way, the next task this way, right? How can you use music for high performance? So crew, there we go, the end of episode 253. Hopefully you got something out of that. I was going all over the place a little bit, but hopefully that made sense to you. Love to hear your feedback, love to get a review, love to get a share, and I'd love to talk to you. Okay, that's what I'm here about, helping. So head over to the show notes and depends on what you want to do. You can jump in with me, which you definitely should be, into the Incubator group on Facebook. The link's there. Scroll down. Apply to be in that. And guess what? There's so much training that's about to happen there. So you need to be in that. The other thing is you've got webinars, trainings. You've got all these different types of things in there, including the world-class performer audio. That's on a crazy discount right now. Everyone should have that. Everyone should be using that. And for this world-class performer audio, guess what? I want to get some feedback. And I want to know the feedback of what the music actually does for you in that. Because that's, very precise with that stuff. The other thing is, if you are a high performer and you are kicking ass right now and your business is blowing up and you want to sharpen your strong mind to get ready for the expansion, hey, that's what I've done with some of the best in the world. Or you're a high performer and you have dipped in performance. You know you're a badass and you just want to bounce back, and not only bounce back, get the tools to go to a level that you always dreamt about. If that's you, while I can do these, click on that link, hit those show notes, and I will do my best to meet you personally. It's either going to be one of me or one of my coaches, but hey, guess what? You might be able to talk to me personally, and I'd absolutely love to be able to help you. So hit those show notes up, and much, much love. And until the next time, why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.